Hi, I'm Mitch, and welcome to the Restoration Road, where I have three really good friends with me. First, the chief meteorologist from 21 Alive, our ABC affiliate, Curtis Smith. Thank you for being here, Curtis.
Good to be here, Mitch.
And Larry Lee Lance, Mr. Youth for Christ. Thank you for being here, Larry.
Mitchell.
And the clean comedian, DavidPDean.com.
Which one?
David, I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Have you encountered God, yet continue to pursue life apart from Him?
Twice I have.
Twice today.
Both times were
Twice
colossal
today.
failure, and I learned from it. And from there, it's like an ongoing battle.
It's something fallen inside each one of us. Larry, have you encountered God in unbelievable ways, yet continue to pursue life apart from Him at times?
David said twice. I'll say three. 3 times.
2, 3. Commit when you get 4.
Hey. All right, how do you?
Solomon did this at extraordinary levels. Probably the greatest encounters with God. Twice, face to face, big time things. Ask anything you want and I'll give it to you, kind of thing. And yet he pursued life apart from God at 100 miles an hour. It's amazing. Mm-hmm. And Ecclesiastes is his last will and testament. And it's really, really powerful counsel on the issue because it provides the loving protection of God. It's just priceless. Curtis, could you read from the worksheet?
Now all has been heard. Here is the conclusion of the matter. Fear God and keep His commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. For God will bring every deed into judgment, including every hidden thing, whether it is good or evil.
Whew. That's heavy duty, isn't it?
Yeah.
A lot of people don't realize that Solomon was the son of David and Bathsheba. And he was originally named Jedediah, which meant loved by the Lord. He became Israel's third king who led its most prosperous 40 years and was renowned as the wisest man who ever lived before Christ. As I mentioned, God appeared to Solomon twice. In his first encounter, God offered Solomon everyone's dream. Ask for whatever you want me to give you. And due to the conflict he would experience as king, Solomon asked for a discerning heart. He wanted wisdom because he said the people are always full of conflict, my paraphrase, and so hard to govern. I got to have discernment or wisdom. And God granted his request. And in Solomon's second encounter, God responded to Solomon's prayer of dedication of the temple. And despite those intimate encounters with God, Solomon pursued life apart from him. And at least, I'm going to look at 5 areas that I think continue to remain a risk for us today. So, first of all, Solomon pursued earthly knowledge apart from God for the sake of contentment. Contentment means literally to be held together. And when things are full of conflict, we want to know that there's a way that we can be fully held together. And here's kind of the way he did it. Larry, Ecclesiastes 1, 12 to 18.
12 to 18. I, the preacher, have been king over Israel in Jerusalem, and I applied my heart to seek and to search out by wisdom all that is done under heaven. It is an unhappy business that God has given to the children of man to be busy with. I have seen everything that is done under the sun, and behold, all is vanity and a striving after wind. What is crooked cannot be made straight, and what is lacking cannot be counted. I said in my heart, I've acquired great wisdom, surpassing all who were over Jerusalem before me, and my heart has had great experience of wisdom and knowledge.
Isn't it amazing? God gives him that wisdom, and then he starts pursuing it at every level. He actually knew everything about plants, about wildlife. People come from all over the world, leaders, to learn more about it from him. And there's something about, we think if we know more, it's all going to be okay. I think one of the greatest risks in studying the Bible, I'm not saying that this is right, but what happens is you can go on autopilot and just think and you never take 5 seconds to ask the Holy Spirit what He wants you to do. Mm-hmm. And that's in our fallenness. It's not God's design, but that's our fallenness. Can you think of a way where you just thought, gosh, if I just knew this, it would all be better. I'd feel content.
It seems as though when you look on the other side of the fence,
it's always greener. The person's lifestyle, their occupation, it's always this comparison game. And Solomon's like, hey, I had it all and still wasn't content. You read that and you're like, how's a person?
No way is what you're thinking.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Larry, is there an area where you just thought more knowledge would make you more content?
I don't know about more content. I mean, I constantly have said to myself, I talk to myself a lot.
Okay.
Said to myself.
Do you answer back?
Self, if I just applied everything I've already learned, everything that God has taught me to date, I would be busy the rest of my days I walk on this earth. And so for me, it's more of, read and learn and study, but apply what God has. That's the hard work. I've got plenty to apply. I need more instruction on how to apply better. So that's the journey I find
that's really
myself
good.
on.
I think I can totally get caught up in the quest for knowledge without really seeing the end game.
Or Curtis, you mentioned Twitter earlier. Do you ever find yourself, and I do this quite a bit, it's like you're scrolling through the timeline, you're reading some of the posts by these great authors, and then you start reading just nonsense. And an hour, 2 hours goes by. I'm like, that could have been like God time.
Right.
I could have
Time
been
well used.
Yeah, it's just that's those 2 hours I'll never get back in my life, just wasted on frivolous reading.
Absolutely. And I think Twitter is where it happens to me most.
Yeah.
Facebook and Instagram occasionally, a little bit, but Twitter,
Yeah.
you can read so many different things. And it feels like, if I just look at Twitter for 5 minutes, I'll see 1,000 things and see what's going on in the world. And it ends up being that you can kill an hour or two because you're looking at so many posts, and then you click on the links to read an article or something. And
When we host mission trips to the Dominican Republic, we do it every summer. We've been doing it for almost like 12 years now. But one of the great joys is when we get there. I never purchased the overseas plan for the phone. And the first day, I'm like a cokehead going through withdrawal, just shaking and just looking, come on. But like day 5, 4th, 5th day, it's such a release. Like you're sitting with people and you're having this koinonia, this time where you're talking and getting to know people, and you do you enjoy hearing the person's heart.
Yep.
I mean, the art of conversation is actually kind of lost, and
I had
I
the
almost feel like
exact
God
same.
saying, like, just talk with me.
Yeah, I had the exact same experience this past summer. My parents gave our family a cruise with them for Christmas last year, and so we took it, and out in the middle of the ocean, you don't have good cell coverage, and so you're forced to put the phone down, and it was the same kind of thing, and it is the first 24 hours are a little rough, but it is freeing, and it really ends up being a wonderful and fruitful time, no doubt.
Susan has a rule when we eat, no phones, and I don't know if it has ever happened. Actually, it seems like you can justify something sometime. I'm getting directions where we're going next.
Right.
Do you feel like that's how God responds sometimes with just with communing and talking, fellowship with Him? It's like you want to, but it's like the person you're talking to, they ask you a question, how you're doing, and then you go to respond, and they're like, mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay. I feel like that's what I'm doing to God sometimes, as far as not giving Him my all.
That's powerful, because I tell my girls that all the time. I said, you better be telling me, because I've finished something, I've said to them while they got their phone out, I said, you better be showing me that you're a multitasker and you can look at that and answer what I said at the same time. And so the other day, Lily came in and was saying something to me, and I was going like this. Dad, you better show me that you're a multitasker and you can answer what I just said and do what you're doing.
Honey, I'm tweeting what you're saying. It's brilliant.
Solomon not only pursued earthly knowledge apart from God for the sake of contentment, he stored up possessions. That was really insightful. We pursue knowledge, what you guys said about social media apart from God for the sake of contentment. He stored up possessions for the sake of significance. Who has Ecclesiastes 2:4-8?
Oh, I did great things. This is Solomon, not
I
FYI.
didn't think you had started reading yet.
Did you want me to read what Solomon said, though?
Yeah, yeah.
Because I've done some great things. This almost feels a little funny to read. Oh, I did great things. Built houses, planted vineyards, designed gardens and parks, and planted a variety of fruit trees in them, made pools of water to irrigate the groves of trees. I bought slaves, male and female, who had children, giving me more slaves, and I acquired large herds and flocks, larger than any before me in Jerusalem. I piled up silver and gold, loot from kings and kingdoms. This guy can go on, can't he?
It's amazing.
Took himself to the prom. Holy cow, he loves himself. I gathered a chorus of singers to entertain me with song. He went on there for a while.
He did. It would be similar. I think the difference of this beautiful car collection that we're in, the difference of storing them up for significance apart from God is making it all about you. Hey, look what I have, look what I own, look what I control. And the stuff now owns you. But I think God designed ownership, and when you own the stuff, the way Chuck handles these, it's unbelievable. I mean, he allows us to film here. He'll allow someone to drive one. I mean, it's the stuff does not own Chuck Sirac. He's a great example of he owns the stuff, and he knows that God gets it all in the end anyway. So I think that's the danger of, and it's interesting that that's what Solomon said. He pursued it. Nobody pursued it like him, of having the stuff for the sake of significance. Significance has a word sign in it. Hey, look at me. Did you ever think that if you had something in particular that it would make you significant?
Just real quick, referencing that one more time. He could have left it, oh, I did great things. And then we all in our mind
There you go.
envision the great, but no. I did great things. Take a seat. Here's what I did. That's kind of
That does sound like the message.
the arrogance, of the
That's true.
of the guy.
Have you ever pursued something that you thought would make you significant?
Never.
I didn't think so. I remember the time you were driving your Jeep with the top off in the rain and pulled in and said, "Is this where we're filming?"
Just completely wet. I've pursued a lot in my life, Mitch. I mean, you always look at agencies, agents, avenues, this business venture. I'm not too proud to admit I've probably fallen on my face 80% of the time. But it's those learning experiences where you're like, either I'll never do that again, or I learned from that, or the bottom line is, God's in control of our careers, and He wants our heart, He wants our mind, He wants our commitment. And seek first the kingdom of God, and everything falls into place. But we always skip over the seeking God first. We just kind of, we want to drive the car ourselves. So.
Amen. Curtis, how do you keep yourself or check yourself from not want to be on in New York, LA, Chicago, or on the national affiliates? Because you're good enough to be.
Oh, thank you. We made a decision a number of years back, just that wasn't what was going to be important. And I actually turned down a couple of offers that came to me unsolicited. I was not looking for jobs, and two much bigger cities approached me about going on two separate occasions, and both times I said no, and it was kind of tough. But we honestly thought this is where God wants us to be. This is a great place to raise a family. This is the things that God is doing in our lives. We feel like there's no reason to give that up just to chase more money, more fame. And I feel like He's rewarded me to the point where it's become a struggle sometimes, because I do have, on a Fort Wayne scale of things, I do have a lot of fame, and people are very nice to me. And
if you put on Facebook, what tie should I wear today, you'd have 1,000 likes and 500 comments.
I have more engagement through social media than probably anyone in Fort Wayne, which is a weird thing to think about. But for whatever reason, people like to talk to me and like to hear what I have to say, which is humbling. And yet it can be it can be an issue for me. I enjoy my job. I enjoy what I do. I enjoy the rewards of it. And sometimes I do have to work to keep myself in check about it. My family's great about that. My friends are great about that. I have a lot of people in my life who just don't treat me like a television person
Right.
at all,
Yeah.
which is really key.
I think we get ourselves in trouble. I mean, those are big examples, but go down a couple layers, what church you attend, what board you serve on, what committee, what friends you hang out with, who you try to associate with. I mean, that to me really says a lot about the significance of what you think you should do. I think that's a challenge.
We get
That's good.
so caught up in image, and I am in a career, and David, you probably feel the same way, where image is really important. Image is what attracts people, and I connect with a lot of people basically on 90% on image, and so.
I think everybody does, Curtis.
Do you?
Yeah, I mean, and it's not image of FaceTime, it's just who we are and how we're accepted. I mean, for me, there's an image issue of a PR value because of my position. So what's the PR side of the image? Mitch always introduces me as Mr. Youth for Christ.
Right.
Well, I don't know what that means. Maybe he'll tell me someday.
But it's part of your image.
But it's 40 years. It's, that's what I've done with my life. I get called that a lot in the community. So there comes an image with that. There comes an expectation. There comes a credibility. There comes a pressure. We were talking about that earlier.
That's good to hear, actually, for me, because sometimes I feel like I'm in a really unique position where I'm on an island. I'm actually glad to know that most people might say the exact same thing about themselves.
It's the same thing. I mean, to go to a grocery store, to go to a Pizza Hut, to go anywhere, I'm having conversations with somebody.
Yeah.
And, your wife goes, thought this was our time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that's really good so far, man. You guys are betting 1,000. Well, Solomon, the king, built military might for the sake of control, and we're going to do something with this. Have I given anybody Ecclesiastes 4:13 through 16? Was that you, Curtis?
I think that was me. A poor yet wise lad. Lad is a great word that doesn't get used.
It doesn't get used enough.
Right.
Much.
No.
Lad and lass.
Yes.
There was a lad and a lass walked into a bar. If you would just start it off that way, it's funny. It doesn't need a punchline.
No, that's it. Just stop telling. Just tail off.
Words and phrases we don't hear enough. They walked in of an evening, and he lied on the Davenport.
Davenport. Yeah, that's
Couch.
a good one.
And his name was Grayson. You don't hear that. You don't hear
He's
that.
still writing for you.
That lad, look at that little lad over there. You hurt him. Say you're sorry, Larry.
I'm
I
sorry,
should not
Larry.
have pointed out what a great word lad was. I knew it was going to get us down a bad path here. All right. A poor yet wise lad is better than an old and foolish king who no longer knows how to receive instruction. For he has come out of prison to become king, even though he was born poor in his kingdom. I have seen all the living under the sun throng to the side of the second lad who replaces him. There is no end to all the people, to all who were before them, and even the ones who will come later will not be happy with him. For this too is vanity and striving after wind.
And I think in chapter 8, he goes on to say about all the cities he conquered and the things he did. Now, we probably don't have our own armies. I did have a customer who had his own army. I thought that was quite interesting from another country. But what we do is it is kind of cool. That's my general.
Don't tell me you wouldn't
Army
love
figure men, like little characters?
That would make you significant, wouldn't it?
I think it would.
Yeah.
I think it really would. But what we tend to do is power up on people for control. I think we do it most often with our wives and our kids. But, you're CEO of an organization. You could power up on an employee when you need to. How do you find yourself maybe at that risk of seeking control apart from God?
Sometimes we think we're our best boss, don't we? I mean,
Yes.
professionally, I got this one.
Yeah.
Hey, God, just give me a second. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to jump on this. I'm going to make this deal. I just assume God comes along like this little playful puppy, like, okay, here I come. But rather than give it to him first, As far as business ventures, boy,
I have another book written and ready to be published, and I thought I might want to go a more conventional publishing route instead of self-publishing or co-publishing with another group. And we sent out some proposals to agents, and because you got to have the agent to connect with the publisher. And what this one particular agent, very successful and experienced, writes back and starts tearing it apart a little bit, but then at the end says, I really like it. I want to represent you. You're thinking that control thing just comes up just like that. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, what are you talking about? I did what you said here, here, and here, You got to sit back and say, well, wait a minute. This is what I wanted. I wanted an expert to say, you should do this, this, and this. Mm-hmm. It's exactly what I wanted, and he's doing it. And it got me thinking about how that comes up everywhere in your life, everywhere. If we would be more willing to receive, I'm going to say instruction, correction, but just help. Mm-hmm. It would be amazing how we would grow and change at an exponential rate, especially when it comes to leadership.
I'm constantly thinking about the higher value. So what you just explained, you wanted that expertise.
Yes.
You want the higher value was, let's get this right.
Yes.
But we don't respond. So I know for my work, my generals that report to me, I'll have a meeting where somebody will be disagreeing with something we're doing or an action or whatever. What they don't understand is I have to explain the higher value. I'm not sure Mitch is ready for this next step of leadership. And for me to jump in and solve it for them is not the right thing to do. And we might have to suffer a little bit. I'm not going to let it go completely south. But the higher value is you're on a journey of leadership development.
Well, that's really
I have to make that call. I have to let you feel the pain and not take it back. I have to let you sometimes fail because that's how you're going to learn. But other people are so impatient with that. So I'm really learning a lot as I really study this higher value concept and then put it in the spiritual context of what we're talking about. I mean, the higher value of, doesn't matter what I want. It doesn't, I have to go with the higher value of looking through the lens again of Christ. What does he say?
That's really, really good. Can we go to money? Solomon stockpiled money for the sake of security. Curtis, could you look up maybe Ecclesiastes 5:10 to 20, and Larry have 7:12 ready?
7:12. 5:10 to 20?
Yeah, in fact, you could probably just read 5:10 if I remember correctly.
Okay. Well, I'll read 10, and if that's not enough, let me know. He who loves money will not be satisfied with money, nor he who loves abundance with its income. This too is vanity.
There it is. I mean, you think you're going to find security. What's 7:12 say?
For the protection of wisdom is like the protection of money, and the advantage of knowledge is that wisdom preserves the life of him who has it.
I think the NIV says wisdom is a shelter and money is a shelter, but the advantage of knowledge is that it, how's that last phrase, protects?
That wisdom preserves the life of him who has it.
Yeah, it has an eternal and greater good again kind of thing. That was my journey. I thought money would make me secure. I looked as a young kid at people who were wealthy, and it seemed like that was the ultimate life. They could have whatever they want, whenever they wanted, and that's what ultimate security looked like. And it wasn't until I gained it, lost it, and realized that didn't give me security at all. Not at all. That the only security, the only thing that's really true all the time, the foundation that's true all the time is Christ. This life on this side goes so fast. And usually the way we go out, there's something where all the money in the world probably isn't going to be able to do anything for us, So it's easier said than done, but I think about what Paul said in Philippians 4:12 and 13. I've had a lot, I've had little. I've been hungry, I've been well fed. The secret to contentment is this: I get to do everything through Christ, who gives me strength. And then Solomon ran for pleasure at the sake of gratification. David, could you read Ecclesiastes 2:1 through 3?
I said to myself, let's go for it. Experiment with pleasure, have a good time. But there was nothing to it, nothing but smoke. What do I think of the fun-filled life? Insane. Inane. My verdict on the pursuit of happiness? Who needs it? With the help of a bottle of wine and all the wisdom I could muster, I tried my level best to penetrate the absurdity of life.
That's just amazing. And then he goes on at in verses 8b through 11 to talk more about gratification from pleasure. Curtis, I want you to close us out on Solomon's final thoughts on these matters, on when we pursue knowledge for contentment, when we find ourselves storing up possessions for the sake of significance, when we want to power up on people for control, when we want to stockpile money for the sake of security. I think we've all pursued pleasure at some point for the sake of just selfish gratification. Solomon, who did this, encountered God in an unbelievable way twice, and then pursued life apart from him about as much as anybody could. I think his annual take in gold alone was like over $1 billion or $2 billion. I mean, it's just crazy. There's been nobody like him. And here's his conclusion. Could you pick up the worksheet from What Can We Learn and finish that out for us, please?
Yep. What can we learn? Life apart from God is meaningless. A divided heart led to a divided kingdom. It's the first sin. It's the wide gate. It's the love of this world. Despite his encounters with God and his earthly father's advice, King Solomon pursued life apart from God, the only one who could truly satisfy his desires. David's first words to Solomon and his last were to keep God's commands.
Amazing.
Even God himself repeated this same charge to King Solomon. It's no wonder that Solomon's last will and testament of Ecclesiastes summarized his review Mirror Perspective.
So we want you to memorize Ecclesiastes 12, 13, and 14 with us and recite it every day. Because God is always faithful, we're not. That's why we need Christ to pursue life with God. Psalm 127:1 says, unless God builds the house, the workers labor in vain. We need him, his Spirit, who will bring us in communion with him, with God, and community with others. Christ never fails. He will be with us always.